Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, tens of Cameroonians deported from the United States of America arrived the country. They arrived earlier today through the Douala International Airport amid a general outcry of the violation of the rights of these Cameroonians being deported into the crisis-hit country. Bringing to you details in this edition of the news, and we'll also talk about Nigerians who are rejecting a new police unit created to replace the what is referred to as the notorious unit, the anti-robbery or the special anti-robbery squad, denouncing the fact that they think that this unit, which is replacing the SARS, that is the SWAT, will not be different from the other ones as far as police brutality is concerned. Once more, thank you for joining us on this edition of Newscast on Équinoxe Television. We begin with news concerning some Cameroonians who have been deported from the United States of America, and they arrived the country today through the Douala International Airport amid a heavy deployment of security and defense forces. They arrived earlier today, and Equinoxe Television was barred from taking images of the deported Cameroonians. Reporters assigned to cover the arrival of the Cameroonians were hindered from entering the airport by security and defense forces. Earlier, a group of Cameroonian asylum seekers in the United States also facing deportation said those who arrived today risk persecution and death. They accuse the U.S. immigration officers of pressuring them with force to sign their deportation papers. The 8 men recounted their experience in a complaint filed by a number of immigration advocate groups, including the Southern Poverty Law Center with the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. We'll be talking about this in the second segment of this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television with a legal mind who will be joining us from New York, United States of America. On to something else now. We're going to talk about the situation of some internally displaced children who are forced to flee their homes in the conflict-hit northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon to Galim, where they are now seeking refuge, and many of them are living in very difficult conditions. Details in this report. We'll be coming back to that report in subsequent editions of the news on Equinoxe Television. Coming up in these newscasts, we talk about the situation of roads in some parts of the country, and we are taking you to Ntwi in the central region of the country, where Manjik and Gabriel looks at the difficult and deplorable state of roads in that part of the country.
A pickup held hostage by mud. This is a stretch of road linking Ntwi to Yoko on the National Road number 15. The road users cry out for help. This road leaves Ntwi through Mabonge, Njinja, right up to Kolongo. This road has a lot of potholes filled with water. Due to the impossibility of persons to use the road because of the pickup that has been blocked in mud, the only means for persons to pass just nearby has also been blocked by another car. some good Samaritans were called upon to push the car, during which other vehicles were already queuing up behind. The SD of Mbam and Kim, who was also blocked on his way to install municipal authorities in Yoko, began to lose patience. This is so because the contractors of this road have abandoned it. Even with the poor state of the road, there are too many controls that disturbs us. If the road was even good, we will not complain about the controls, but we can pay any amount. The mayor of Yoko also agrees with the difficulties faced by the several road users.
La praticabilité de la route, la nationale 15.
The accessibility of the national road number 15 is very bad. I am with the people crying. I am asking them to be calm. Procedures to select a company to take charge of the road is taking time, so they should be patient.
Été reconnu défaillante sur le lot 2, ça prend du temps. Que nous soyons patients.
The mayor, as well, is calling on the company in charge of Lot 3 to complete its stretch of road which they have gained contract 4 years now, but nothing to account for.
C'est que sur le lot 3, Mamkin Yoko, l'entreprise est là.
On Lot 3 from Bankin to Yoko, the company in charge for some time now is on it. They have done nothing. Its workers are just seen moving around the village. I'm calling on them to stop discrediting the authorities of the country. They have to give us better results.
Les acteurs institutionnels, elles doivent nous apporter du résultat.
As the rehabilitation work continues to delay, the road users are the ones who feel the pain because sometimes they spend the night on this stretch of road because of the poor state of the road.
Inhabitants of Bulu village in Boya subdivision, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, are asking the University of Boya to leave a land which they are claiming is theirs, while authorities are advising them to respect the ruling of the administrative bench of the Supreme Court, saying that the land belongs to the university. Derek Jato reports.
The battle between the University of Boya and the native of Bulu village on this land drags on.
In fact, I am talking in the capacity of a lawyer with full authority. University of Boya has no land certificate whatsoever, even on the land they are occupying.
Barrister Mwang Jerry Sobe. He is the lawyer for the Bulu people, and Barrister Ekome Mbelangongi is the lawyer for the University of Boya.
There's a land title over this land. It's my possession and the university has a copy. So anybody who claims to be coming here to sell up land is selling it at his own risk and it's a peril, even if he's President Biya, because there's a process.
The both legal minds are at extremes.
It's a fraudulent. I say I challenge you, B.
The native of Bulu on their part recently took to the street, protesting and calling on the University of Boya to stay off this land.
We are warning them to stay away from our land. Yes, we want to develop our land now. Our villagers, they are hanging all around neighboring villages. They cannot come to the village.
Because UB has stolen all their land.
Yes.
And the student leaders of the University of Boya, where their IT center, the research farm, and the administrative block of the Faculty of Law and Political Science are already planted, have also sent what observers say disturbing signals.
I call on the student body to actually stage a peaceful protest. They are already calling me to ask me questions that, Mr. President, what are we doing? I just asked them to calm down, that everything is under control. So I'm really calling on the government to say something about this urgently.
And now that the intentions of the both parties have been made public, critics say the ground is now level for the Cameroon government to see the picture clearer on how to address and redress this escalating situation.
For this time we will talk, say, make government intervene over this matter. We're not there for say we come for fight or we come for do anything.
On the part of the University of Buea authorities, the Vice Chancellor recent communique spelled out the decision of the administrative bench of the Supreme Court and advised those treading on this land to desist or be brought to book.
Still in the southwest regional chieftown, there is equally trouble in the Bongala village under Buea subdivision, and the inhabitants or the indigenes are complaining over the intervention of the administration in the selection of the traditional ruler of that part of Buea subdivision. It is by Davidson Maimo.
Bongala village within the Bojongo Court area and Buea subdivision is in turmoil as chieftaincy squabbles continue to tear the village apart since the death of the chief last year. A consultative talk to designate a chief that took place at Bojongo Health Center premises recently has been contested and petitioned on grounds that it did not take place at Bongala village.
What took place in Bojongo Health Center was fake. Those who came out during the consultative were not even family heads. The fake people. I'm ready to challenge wherever it is that they don't have any right to indicate, because they are children born in different villages.
They are saying the divisional officer of Buea was misled by some individuals for their selfish interest.
The person selected by the GU is a grandchild of Mbongala.
So the mother got that pregnancy from outside, and up to now we don't know his father.
These, they say, they have started selling the village community land and new layout at the detriment of the people of Mbongala.
The chairman of an ad hoc land committee cannot sign a document or sign documents on behalf of the village if anybody is using those documents on lands that have been given to them or sold to them. Those documents until now and forever will be fake and fraud.
It is within the confusion and hatred that is already building up within the Bongala people.
Chief Dafo, Dio's office, and Chief for SS Club, when for the way he and a group that they hold their meeting.
Nganya, a traditional dance group which we are told symbolizes peace and love, came out and cried at the gate of the late chief, calling on his spirit to arise and make sure that peace and love is once again restored in Bongala village.
Davidson Maimo reporting that the Cameroonian military says the Adamawa region has been delivered from transborder insecurity, cattle theft, kidnapping, and other atrocities committed by criminals or suspected criminals in that part of the country. The commander of the 3rd military region was speaking after a field mission which led to the liberation of hostages. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
Beyond transborder insecurity suffered along the frontiers with Chad and the Central African Republic, the Adamawa region of Cameroon suffers high level of insecurity from highway robbery to cattle theft. Military officials in the region say the high-level cattle theft is favored by the complicity of cattle rearers who live far in the bushes. The cattle rearers in the hinterlands, according to military sources, allow their cattle herds to be integrated with stolen cows. Above losing their cattle to men of the underworld, cattle rearers in the Adamawa region of Cameroon also suffer from repeated abduction in the hands of these men of the underworld. Their kidnappers often demand money or their animals in exchange of their freedom, a difficult living condition which demanded a special measure from the defense and security forces in Cameroon. After multiplying tactics to face the double-faced insecurity in the region, the 3rd Military Region Commander, General Aga Robinson, says normalcy has returned. During a field mission to the Adamawa region of Cameroon, the Army General observed that their new tactics have yielded fruit.
Now we take you to Tonga in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon, where a man is under police custody after he allegedly raped his 13-year-old daughter to death. Immaculate Fogue reports.
13-year-old Aisha, a Form 2 student at Government School Tonga in Bafoussam, chief town of the West region of Cameroon, will not be able to achieve her dream of becoming a medical doctor in future. Her dreams have been dashed into thin air after she was allegedly raped and beaten to death by her biological father. The circumstances that led to her death has left family members and neighbors inconsolable. After hearing our neighbors quarreling, I rushed to the scene in order to be aware of what was going on. When I arrived there, the man made me to understand that last week his 13-year-old daughter had stolen the sum of 20,000 francs, and today he equally caught her stealing 200 francs. So he decided to correct her by beating her. He later noticed that she was weak and on her period, so he decided to bathe her. He later discovered that she was dead. That is what he told me. While in the teenager's room, traces of blood could be seen, with neighbors pointing accusing fingers at the father. The pain was unbearable for the teenager. She was beaten and later raped. He later washed her corpse so no one could notice. When we saw him, we could notice traces of sperm on his trouser. The mother of the teenager has been living with her 3 children after the divorce. The alleged rapist is currently in the police dragnet.
Out of Cameroon, Nigerians are outraged by the unveiling of a new police unit to replace the notorious agency that was disbanded following public protest over its alleged human rights abuses. Head of the Nigerian police force, Mohammed Adamu, said the Special Weapons and Tactics SWAT will carry out the duties which were done by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS. But many are using the hashtag #NSWAT on Twitter to oppose the new unit. They say the changes are insufficient to reform the police. Thousands of Nigerians have been protesting against the frequent cases of illegal detention, assault and shooting by SARS officers. In a statement, Police Chief Mohammed Adamu said all SARS staff will undergo a psychological and medical examination before further training and redeployment. Talking Point is up next. Joining us from New York, United States of America, a Cameroonian legal mind, Barrister Neneba Akufo-Addo, an attorney general, an attorney and counselor at law in New York, human rights defender, and a major proponent of decolonization. Thank you for joining us today, Barrister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babylon. Thanks for your audience.
All right, Barrister Neneba Innocent Akufo, we're going to be talking about the Cameroonians who have been deported back to their home country. Some of them arrived through the Douala International Airport today, and there has been a general outcry over what is considered as the violation of the rights of these Cameroonians. What do you think about this act of the United States of America deporting Cameroonians over immigration issues?
Mr. Babila, again, once again, thank you so much for having me on Équinoxe TV, which is a voice for the people. And this is a sad day for the world, sad day for the United States. This is a sad day for Cameroon, and this is a sad day for the United Nations itself. Something that they had premised since 1951 when they got the Convention for Refugees and its attendant protocols in 1967, never to do what the United States just did today or yesterday by deporting people back to the home country where they face persecution and torture. This is absolutely something that we never knew would happen in our lifetime, but that's what we've experienced today. And again, this is a sad day for the United States. And this is a sad day for the world.
Oh, can we have more information on the Cameroonians who have been sent back to their home country? Are they from the northwest, the southwest regions, from the far north, from the center? Can we have some information about these Cameroonians?
Yes, I do have information about them because it's an area of law in which I do practice in the United States. I'm not directly representing any of the people that were sent back to Cameroon, but I do have information. Just said about the about these Cameroonians that were sent back to Cameroon. Now, it's a little bit global because you have some that actually exhausted their legal processes within the legal system here in the United States, and there was nothing to be done again, and they had to be sent back. But that you're sending them back to Cameroon, that is the travesty right there. And there are some, back in the summer, they had to protest about injustice, the way they were being treated in detention centers here in the United States. And those are the ones that I'm so much concerned about, because you're coming to a beacon of freedom, which is the United States, and you exercise your rights, because once you step your foot in the United States and you declare that you are suffering persecution from the country where you're coming from, you have the right to absolute protection just as every other United States citizen. But the way these Cameroonians were treated, they were treated with abhorrence. They were treated with the most inhuman conditions that you could actually look upon. When you protest, you're supposed to be given redress for what you're looking for. But these people were summarily on the plane to send back to Cameroon, where they were facing persecution again. So it goes into a round circle, you know, because not send people back where they were fleeing. It's absolutely against international law, all the conventions that the United States is signatory to, and all the protocols that the United States is signatory to. This is not right. Again, you cannot blame these people, those Cameroonians that are sent back there. They were fleeing from a well-founded fear of persecution. They were summarily sent back to Cameroon. Why did that happen? It is something that we have to pursue. It has not yet ended. It is something we'll have to pursue, and we'll pursue to the end. Because some of these people, they actually passed their credible fear interview. They actually expressed that they were afraid to go back to their home. Some of them, from what I've heard, I mean, I'm right, that they had not seen a judge yet, or even if they had seen a judge in an immigration court, every legal honor was not fully exploited. They did not expose everything. So they shouldn't be sent back to Cameroon again the way they've done to these children yesterday.
Earlier, a group of Cameroonian asylum seekers who are also facing deportation accused the U.S. Immigration Department officials or officers of compelling them, pressurizing them to sign their deportation documents. What does the law say about this?
So let me explain to you, and for your listeners, the way the process works here in the United States, because I'm privy to. So when you come to the United States, you come at the border, which is what most of our compatriots did there. They express a fear of going back to their home country. They submit them to what is called a credible fear interview, which is what most of them went through. And find out whatever part of Cameroon they come from, or from the southern Cameroon, they do speak English and they do understand. So they submitted themselves to the credible fear interview, and which they did, most of them, from what I've heard, they did pass the credible fear. I want you to go through that particular hoop. The next step is for you to see an immigration judge to see if your credible fear can translate to a viable asylum claim in court. But that's where most of them did not get the opportunity, because they were subjected to indiscriminate sort of rendition where they were in Texas, in Mexico, not being able to see an immigration judge, because in Latin America, people, but not this group of Cameroonians. So some of them decided to take a hunger strike in protest of the injustice that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is called ICE, exposed on these children, on these migrants. So when that happened, they summarily decided to say, okay, now that you are proving to be stubborn, which is not right in the first place, because they were expressing a First Amendment right that's due to every other Cameroonian here, every other U.S. citizen here in the United States. Because once you step foot again in the United States, you are accorded that freedom for you to express your mind, which is what they did. And rather than take them before the judge, they summarily send these children back to to Cameroon, where, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not trying to be prejudiced here, that's where they're fleeing from. And if I hear people saying that they will be treated as prodigal sons coming back, now a prodigal son is somebody you gave something to go try to fend for themselves somewhere, and they went and squandered everything. These were not prodigal sons. These were children that were fleeing from your persecution. These were children that were fleeing from a war that you created. They were not, they left school, they didn't have jobs, they were trying to hustle around Cameroon, but you forced a war on them, and they decided to run away because you were trying to kill them or to persecute them. So they had a well-founded fear of persecution of leaving Cameroon. Now you're sending them, and when they come back, you're calling them prodigal sons. That's very abusive. That's something that whoever made that statement should absolutely withdraw it and apologize to these children coming back. They should be taken with all the ounce of softness rather than such invectives as saying that they are prodigal sons.
Some of the persons, Cameroonians facing deportation who spoke recently indicated that those who have arrived the country today are facing, some of them are will be facing persecution and even death. What is their fate? Is it sealed already, or they have any other possibility of reversing the situation?
Well, in my field, nothing is absolutely impossible, Mr. Babila. We can always walk through this, seamlessly walk through the law and see what can be happen. Going to happen, because if you illegally send somebody back to their home country where they would be persecuted, there is always recourse going through the legal system. You have to understand that here in the United States at the moment, the way the immigration laws have been interpreted, they're absolutely very fast against people trying to see us out in the United States. The administration has made it very difficult or near impossible for these people to be granted a legal platform where they could land and seek lawful asylum in the United States. Because if you're leaving your country, if you're a refugee because you have a well-founded fear of persecution, you should be granted the right either through ICE or through the immigration court. This is what these people did not have, and we would explore all legal possibilities to see what we can do. We have a list of everyone who was left in the United States on those plea fights. We would follow up, and we would still follow up with the Southern Poverty Law Center and see what can be done to redress this situation. It wasn't supposed to happen. There are some of them in that group that had exhausted their legal premises based on the law here in the United States. But there are some that were not even supposed to be on that flight to Cameroon because they had not seen a judge. Everything was still pending. But just because they expressed a First Amendment right that's equal to every American here in the United States, they decided to send them back to Cameroon.
You seem not to agree that they should be treated as prodigal sons. Prodigal sons, why? And what do you expect from the government of Cameroon, for example, regarding the treatment of these Cameroonians who have been deported back into their country?
No, the only reason is, sometimes a harmful truth, Mr. Babila, is better than a useful lie. If you call somebody a prodigal son, if you look at the biblical context of that, where that phrase is coming from, somebody equal opportunity, one went and squandered the other, and the other went and was successful, and they welcomed the other one that was not successful when he went abroad. So when he went outside, but these are children that you import, because Cameroonians were not fleeing Cameroon in their numbers the way it is happening now in the last 4 years. Why? It is just because the government of Cameroon decided to wage a war on the English-speaking part of Cameroon, the southern Cameroons, and this triggered the outflow of refugees. You have them in Nigeria, you have them all over Africa. It's just that those other countries have not sent them back to Cameroon. So you cannot call these people prodigal sons. It is absolute. It is abusive. It is insulting to call your own children that you give them no opportunity. You absolutely took away every right that's accessible to them in the culture of that particular word, and you send and they run away. Then when they come back, rather than embrace them and plead and apologize, they should be the one apologizing to these people, not them apologizing, saying they should seek remorse and they will be reintegrated in the society. No, the government is supposed to apologize to them for letting them go outside and be subjected to the type of torture, because you need to know what these children go through the Ecuador, through Guatemala, go through the trenches of Mexico, and going through gang criminals to get to the United States and for them to be sent back. This is not different from what North Africans go through, other Africans go through the Mediterranean to get to Europe. You see, they die, they capsize and all that stuff. And why are they going? We have to look at that. Why are they going? You, the Cameroonian government, you're calling these children prodigal sons with all the resources that you've got. Now, these children are because they're going to have a better opportunity where they're trying to go. And they're going to look for good jobs. So who is supplying these jobs? The same corporations that come back to your country, and because of graft and greed, they make you impose laws and make things that are not supposed to be the way it's supposed to be. And that forces it to run out. Foreign countries and do this menial job, corporations that force them out of their countries. And now when they come back, you call them prodigal sons. I think it is really insulting. It is belittling.
Right,
the government should apologize to these children coming back.
Barrister Neneba Innocent Akufo, what is required to be granted asylum in the United States of America?
So, if you look at the 1951 Convention on the Refugees by the UNHCR, for you to be granted asylum in a country, not specifically the United States, you must find, you must be a refugee. And a refugee is defined as somebody who has a well-founded fear of persecution because of his race or her race, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, or a political opinion, or there is a catch-all group called a special group, a particular social group. So if you're looking at that, this is what you need to do in order to qualify for asylum in the United States in particular, which I know. So if these children are coming down there, coming from Cameroon and coming to the United States, we don't know. We don't know what they're espousing. Some of them is because of their political persecution in Cameroon. It may be because of sexual orientation. We've had cases that, they've been persecuted because of their sexual orientation. We've had political cases here in the United States of their political opinion, which is the majority of the cases. So that's what you can do to get asylum in the United States. But, it is something that has to be subjective, which I tell all the people. Let's say you were somewhere in Bamenda and there is a protest march somewhere and you happen to be part of that group and you are picked up and you're locked up. That's not the basis for asylum. It has to be you in particular. It has to be you, Mr. Tita or Mr. Ambe or Mrs. Ngwa. It has to be you in particular who has suffered persecution in the hands of the government, or an entity that the government controls, which the government has absolutely given them free right to do what they can do. So if you find yourself in that situation, then you qualify for asylum wherever you go, even here in the United States.
Barrister Neneba Akufo Innocent, human rights defender, attorney and counselor at law, major proponent of decolonization. Thank you for joining us today in this edition of the news.
Always my pleasure, Mr. Babina.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.